Hi, I'm Mike Koss, and I'm a board member at Reskill Americans. And we are joined today by Ore, who is a software engineer now working in Vancouver for Microsoft. And he has an internship with some of the very similar experience to what we're offering the Reskill Americans course this year. So, hi, Ore. Welcome to our little chat.
Yeah. Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
I'm curious about how did you first learn to program? What was your first introduction to that, and how did you get started?
What drew me to programming, why I actually started was, I was just curious about how the computer worked. And since then, an affinity towards like hacking things. And eventually, I think this was back in 2011. I, I ended up doing a Java type
Hmm.
bootcamp. So it was like a 12-week type thing, just learning about Java, going through like a basics of like what writing code is all about. And that was actually like my first real introduction to, okay, this is how, you write code and this is how you actually build software.
Yeah.
Uh, and then over time, obviously, I dabbled across like other programming languages, trying to make websites with
Hmm.
HTML, JavaScript, PHP, also figuring out how to, store data on the servers and how to process them. And so during, like, I think it's a mix for me. There is like obviously the bootcamp type thing, and then just searching up and down and just
Yeah.
curious and reading stuff on the internet. And I'm working on projects that required me to actually like write code.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's pretty much where I picked up my experience. It's like a mix of a little introduction here, little self-learning here, and then actual
Hmm.
standardized knowledge. So
Our course, we're offering students four different tracks.
okay.
There's kind of a specialization. We're trying to get people who maybe don't even know anything at all about programming to begin with. But we have a front end developer track, and you mentioned things like JavaScript, HTML, CSS.
Yeah.
We will teach that so people can build websites and web applications. There's a back end track, and you mentioned PHP. I think in our back end track, we're going to be using Python primarily, I think, but
Yeah,
we haven't
that's
settled on
pretty
that. Yeah.
good.
And there's also a user experience and design track, so getting to know how to design user interactions and communicating designs to developers. So I think that's a really interesting one. That's not strictly a programming track, but and then we have a mobile track, so building mobile apps. And you didn't mention anything about building mobile apps. I don't know if you have any of that experience.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, I did just like JavaScript on its own is really powerful, right?
Yeah.
And there are things like Ionic,
Yes.
excuse me, that you can use to actually build for mobile. So
Yeah.
sometime I used to write like articles, teaching people how to build with like JavaScript and Ionic and
Yeah.
deploy to your mobile phone. So I did have a little experience building stuff around that, and I did build some apps for people at the time. So the learnings I had from that period kind of took me through my career, and even right now where I am, it's things that I still apply them every day, right?
I think a lot of people have this idea of a software developer as this like very kind of antisocial, lonely occupation. You're just sitting alone in front of a computer and not ever talking to anybody. But all the jobs I've ever had, that would be pretty rare, like the exception. There's a lot of interaction with other people, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah. That the interaction with other people is really how sell your idea or get like your team to buy in on whatever you're trying to build. Like if you're working alone on your computer, like in your house alone, yeah, sure, you can do that. But when you get into a point where you're shipping something to people,
Mhm.
that bit of being able to collaborate and share the thought pattern that you have and even convince people
Mhm.
because you realize that you're going to be working with other smart people too, right? So you're going to have people that challenge your ideas. And so you're supposed to be able to take that in, right? Take the critique that's coming up and figure out if one is actually valid. And at the second time, also how you can incorporate it. So that internship program just gave me that first window into, what to expect.
Mhm.
going into like the industry and going into jobs and working. Um, yeah, I mean, this it's the people for me and the collaborating
Yeah.
was the best
Yeah.
part. I'm more of the mindset that, you know, hands-on learning by
Hmm.
doing is really one of the best ways to learn.
Yep.
It's great that that's what your Reskill Americans is doing, because I think that that already puts the people going through this process like a step ahead,
Yeah.
right? Because people spend months just reading things and saying, "Oh, well, I'm just reading this," or "I'm just watching this videos," and it's
Hmm.
like, "Have you built anything though?" And they're like, not yet, because I feel like I need to learn this." You would always feel like you need to learn
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Anybody can learn to code, because the first part is obviously, do you want to learn, and are you like, do you want to bad enough, right? Because with anything, like I said, the challenges are going to come, and that's when some people drop off, and it's okay to take a break sometimes. But
Yeah.
if it's something you really want to do, you it gets tough. It gets hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes I stop coding and then I go for a walk. Like, take a break and then come back and look at it with a fresh mind. And like really asking for help. Like, oh, talk to your mentor or a tutor or something,
Right.
and say, hey, I'm kind of stuck on this bit. Like, well, how do you go about this, or what do you do when you're solving problems like
Yeah.
this? 90% of the time, somebody else has been through it before. And just like learning to write code, it's a huge deal. First of all, like, props to you for actually getting started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But really, it's like just gradual and continued progress. Really, it does pay off. Like those little chunks of time that you spend. And yeah, like it it can be daunting, but like if you really want it, it's yours. I know a lot of people from unconventional backgrounds in tech.
Mm.
Right? I know people who like did a bachelor's in arts and then they're writing code now.
Hmm.
Uh, so those examples, and there are many more examples, um, go to show that one, your basic, school learning or whatever it felt like when you were in school, uh, doesn't determine if you can be a successful software engineer or if you can actually be in this field.
Were there any specific highlight that you felt like you had during the time you were doing your internship?
Did have like a very fun time working with them, right?
Hmm.
They're really good people, and they were really willing to like explain new ideas. And like I'm the type of person, like, if for anyone who's ever worked with me closely, like I ask a lot of questions, right?
Okay. Yeah. Good.
And so like it was great having different people that I could ask questions, right? And that's what you get when you go through that internship experience, right? It may feel like you're bothering people, but
Mm.
believe me, they've been there before. So they know what you're going through, right? Like, imagine an intern now asking me questions. Like, I know that I've been an intern before, right? I know that
Yeah.
I've been at a place where I didn't know what was going on,
Yeah.
right? And so I would 9 out of 10 times answer the person, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I even expect them to come back again,
Yeah,
right?
nobody wants the intern to be like just struggling in the corner, beating their head over a problem
Yeah,
that they have no way of figuring it out on their own just based on their current knowledge. Like they want you to like say, "Hey, I need a little bit of help," and often it's just like, "Oh, do this," and it's like, "Oh, that? Okay." Yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to add about your experience?
I would just say, like, to whoever is getting started with this, first of all, like I said, congratulations, man. It's a big step, right?
Taking the step? Yeah.
To move your career forward and change the way you the things that you're doing and work on impactful things. And yeah, I would just say, like, trust yourself, bet on yourself, be ready to learn and embody that growth mindset. It really does go a long way. It really does. Like, it changes, it changes so much, because what happens is then you look back, like, for example, you go through the internship of 7 months and you go through all of that. And then you look back and it's like, whoa, like I started this like over and then I didn't even know what was going on. And now look at what I'm doing right now.
Right.
It does add up. And so, yeah, I would say go for it. And the sky's your limit.
Well, thanks a lot for talking to me today. And it's if you're considering starting with Reskill Americans, so building projects, getting your hands dirty, and then ultimately working in an internship where you have that real work experience. So it'll be a really great journey for you. So anyway, thanks again, Ori.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Mike. I
All
enjoyed
right.
talking to you.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Awesome.